Hi everyone, Joe here from ElitePodcasts-dot-net. This podcast delivers fully human content, crafted for your ears through AI voice technology. Let's dive in. Once again, everything in this podcast I speak of is in one way or another geared towards getting more listeners for your show. Today we're talking about paying for podcast advertising. I was going to cover more traditional ways of growing your podcast first, but since paying for podcast advertising comes up so often, I'm tackling it first. Why not social media? I know you want everyone to hear your podcast. Why not try and cut the line by running an ad on social media like Facebook? The idea is correct, but social networks are not the place to do this. Let me save you money, time, and headaches by declaring that platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Google, or really any social website, app, or chat room are complete and total waste of money for advertising your podcast. Just don't put yourself through that pain. I really can't think of any podcast that has ever had true success advertising their content on any social network. The reason is simple. Potential listeners are on their social pages, not in their podcast apps listening to podcasts. Now, let me be clear, I'm not saying don't post your new podcast episodes on your personal or business socials. I want to continue doing that for sure. I'm specifically speaking of paying to boost your post or run some paid ads on a social site. Paid ads on social sites or apps never seem to yield any real results. Targeting power listeners. What has produced some real results is advertising your podcast where a special kind of listener is. These special listeners are called power listeners. We want to target these power listeners because they are serial and binge listeners. Furthermore, we want to reach them where they're actually listening to podcasts. These listeners recommend podcasts they like and love to family, friends, and colleagues. This is why I only recommend paying for podcast advertising where power listeners are. Where to find power listeners? So where are these power listeners consuming their podcasts? Not on Apple or Spotify. While these platforms have the majority of listeners, power listeners are on third-party podcast apps. They've outgrown or need more features than mainstream apps offer because they manage hundreds of shows, subscriptions, lists, and more. How many people do you know that have gone beyond the Apple Podcast app or Spotify to download a more flexible and customizable app? Probably not many. Power listeners are the ideal target for paid ads. Focus on Castro and Overcast podcasting apps. Now, what exactly are these third-party podcast listening apps? There are dozens, but let's focus on two that offer direct advertising inside the app where power listeners are listening. Castro and Overcast. Both available in the Apple App Store. Castro has simplified its offerings to just two choices available in weekly increments. Overcast allows advertising in 30-day periods by category for varying prices. If you want to spend money online advertising your show, these two apps are the way to go. They even estimate the results you can expect from your ad. Download both Castro and Overcast and familiarize yourself with these apps. You can also look at their official web pages to learn more about their podcast advertising opportunities. Reach out to me if you have any more questions at ElitePodcasts-dot-net, where I help podcasters with any part of their show. On the website, you can schedule a free 15-minute call to discuss anything podcasting. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Share your thoughts or questions by emailing me. You'll find the link in the show notes. Don't forget to check out the listening page at ElitePodcasts-dot-net/listening. Here, you will learn about some great podcasts. If you think your podcast, with at least 7 episodes, deserves a spot there, send me your link. Keep making your podcast elite with Joe from ElitePodcasts-dot-net. Talk with you next time.